Hi everyone, welcome. I'm out here at my outdoor worm bag, and this system is now 39 weeks of age. That's 273 days of age, and if you were with me last time, 11 days ago, when we last fed these little guys, they got a feeding very similar to what they're going to get again today, which is a combination of coffee, some used coffee, and the stuff that you see right here is my worm chow. Kind of a similar recipe to what I had going previously, which is mainly a collection of old noodles that are not made out of wheat or flour, but they're noodles made out of vegetable matter, as well as a bunch of pumpkin seeds, a couple other things mixed in there, but that's the bulk of what that worm chow is made out of. We've been toying with the idea of giving these worms that live in this system a little bit of relief. And by relief, I simply mean getting them in and out of the cold, because winter has now officially started here less than a week ago in my area. And we've already had some freezing temperatures here and there. However, the forecast has remained pretty mild. Within a few more days, we are going to start to see temperatures overnight dropping below freezing for a few hours and then coming back up above freezing again. So it's because of what I'm seeing in the extended forecast, which reaches out about 14 days, and I'm still seeing temperatures that I believe the worms should be able to tolerate out here. And I know that it's going to, result in the worms slowing down in the in their basic, activity of breaking food scraps down for me. But I figured, let's leave them out. Let's leave them out. Since it is my outdoor worm bag, it does deserve to be outdoors. I know that if I were to bring it in right away, then the activity within the system would probably increase in speed, and we would see less and less leftovers each time we came in here. So now we're starting to see some of the stuff that we must have given them last time. These look like some scallion onions that didn't really do too good, and ended up becoming worm food. Perhaps they just sat around in the refrigerator a little bit too long. It's not stuff they got last time 11 days ago. That would have to go back a couple of feedings now. I already saw some leftovers of some pumpkin here, tomato here and there. I was playing around with a couple pieces of tomato earlier, kind of just trying to squeeze some of the juices out of them and see what's happening there. One of them looked a little bit moldy. This system definitely seems to have an abundance of moisture in it, that's for sure. I'm sure the worms appreciate that. Now this thing, I have no clue what this is. It's got a good bit of juiciness to it, and it breaks pretty readily, but I'm not sure what it is that I'm seeing here. I believe it's corn cob. Now that I'm breaking it apart and seeing some of the structure of the material, I believe it's corn cob. So it does seem to me like these wormies do have a good bit of remaining leftover food scraps lingering here. Here's some more corn cob. This was a little easier to recognize because of that hollowed out center and the circular shape of it, or tubular shape of it, if you will. Kind of makes you wonder if it's even necessary to come back in here with more food and feed them once again. This might be, this is half of a mango seed. For a while there, I was always bumping into one of the two halves because the seed was cut in half this way. You could see the pretty straight cut right there. And the worms do always seem to like crawling down into the half of a mango seed. Here's some more corn cob, and maybe we'll get into the habit of helping the corn cob break down a little bit by busting it up. I tell you, just by seeing all this leftover food in this system, it does make me feel more and more like maybe there would be some benefit to eventually bringing these guys into a warmer space where their activity would just speed up a little bit and they would be more inclined to eat rather than just try to, stay warm and comfortable. I don't know, when I saw the forecast and it showed that there was going to be really no signs of any freezing temperature for quite some time, for at least 10 days, I believe. And even then, it would just be in the overnight hours. I figured, well, let's let them continue out here, even though the temperatures are quite chilly. So I think we'll just stick with that idea, you know. Being an outdoor worm bag doesn't only mean that we get to see how they perform out in the nice warm summer temperatures, but we also get to observe how their behavior changes gradually over time as the temperatures drop, as winter rolls in. And at some point, for sure, we'll definitely be bringing these little guys indoors. I've pretty much made that determination already. I've been doing that now for a couple years. When I first started this whole concept of outdoor systems, it really began as an overwintering project, trying to see how the worms do if they're just left out all winter. And even then, I think I might have chickened out on the first year of doing it. Because once their material starts to freeze up, I think it might have even been last year when I came out here, or maybe the year before when I came out here, and I couldn't even access the material in the container because the top surface of it had frozen solid, and I had to like chip through a pretty good layer of frozen material just to get at some stuff that was still, you know, loose enough to be moved around and for me to be able to run my fingers through it. And then down in there I found worms all huddled together, presumably trying to stay a little bit warmer than if they were out on the edge where it's cold. And I even wondered if I were to just leave it, you know, if I were to leave it, could the whole block of material just freeze all the way through? That's what worried me, and I didn't want to see that happen. Even here, a banana peel that goes back, geez, probably a month and a half now at this point, if I had to guess. I don't even know for sure. Well, you know, I do like kind of what we're doing here by going around the whole perimeter and stirring everything up. It's what I had envisioned as the game plan here, to really try to assess what types of remaining bits of food remain in this stuff throughout the entire environment. So I am being a little bit more thorough, I believe, than I normally would be, just by sort of following through on checking out anything that my fingers bump into that seems a little bit larger in size. And even here, this is something that would typically take a little while in a worm bin. It's a piece of citrus. It's probably lemon, just based on its color and its scent. Nice, fresh, lemony scent. But, you know, certain things do take a while, and that just doesn't mean, you know, that just means even though there's a substantial sized piece of food here, like, you know, a piece of banana peel, a piece of corn cob, a piece of citrus, whatever the case may be, the stuff needs to sort of, I think, bacterially, you know, kind of break down a little bit better before the worms are actually able to start making any use of it as a food source. So even though you were to, like, you know, kind of go through here and collect up a whole bunch of stuff that you find which is clearly food items, the worms just aren't able to really make much use of it until it starts to really break down on its own, either through maybe mold or fungi, like what we're seeing here a little bit, or just the bacteria that's present in most worm systems. So even though there are good amounts of leftover food here, I still feel good coming in with stuff that I know that the worms are most likely going to be able to eat almost immediately, which is the coffee and the worm chow that we're going to be feeding them today. So I have been kind of deliberately avoiding the very, very center, which is where we last excavated and fed. And it almost makes me wonder, should we kind of keep all this stuff together that we've been sort of collecting along the way? All these chunks of corn cob and citrus and banana peel. Perhaps we can make a little collection of obvious leftover food chunks and place them into a single spot so that maybe the worms do sort of find it when they head inward bound to the center of the container, presumably because it's warmer in there than on the outer edges. And then as they make their way down into the center, they'll find all these little bits of various types of food scraps, which may or may not be at a stage that they can utilize it as a food source. And then perhaps perhaps in another couple weeks we'll come back in here. I mean, on this go around too, it's been 11 days since the last check-in. My main reason for wanting to come in here today versus waiting longer, because I knew that there'd be a number of rainy days coming, as well as temperatures that would be dropping off a little bit as well. So I felt like today, on this fairly mild day, it would be a good idea to come in here and see how the worms are doing. Now, I don't know if this is the same piece that we examined earlier, half of a mango seed, or maybe it's the same one we bumped into earlier. We'll just kind of keep going around a little bit. I believe we have pretty much completed one circuit, I think, if I'm not mistaken, going all the way around. The material still seems like it's a little bit dense here and there as I plow through it, so maybe we're not quite all the way around, or maybe we are, I don't know. Maybe it is time to start heading towards the middle, just so we can open up a cavity into which we can drop today's food supply, combining it with the leftovers we've collected here. Now we're starting to see a little bit more worm activity as we move inwards, and here is the other half. Oops, nice little worm party going on there within that half of a mango seed. Sorry guys to interrupt your little worm party. I'm never quite sure why the worms huddle together within an object like that, whether it's the sensation of being within something tight or confined space that appeals to them, whether it's you know, kind of like the company. Do they enjoy being amongst one another? I don't know why, but for some reason I don't think that that's the case, but who knows, maybe it is. Could it be because there's still enough of that delicious food item that they're actually eating it while they're in there? That could be one of the reasons, I'm not sure. But it is kind of fun to peek inside one of those things once in a while and find a little worm party going on. I was kind of looking under my hand to see if any of these worms drop, but no, they somehow seem to hang on, and they're just on the bottom side of my hand. Just trying to get out of the bright lights. You can't blame them. They don't like being out in the bright light, that's for sure. So at least here, we'll put them onto the material into which they can squirm and get out of the bright light. And I'm sure they'll appreciate that. So down here in the middle, we're going to find probably some more leftovers of foods and bedding bits and stuff like that. Stuff that we can put into our little collection over here, and then that stuff can almost go in as just a big mound of stuff to be piled together right smack in the middle of the system. And then I'm sure next time we come in here, that'll be the place to find a big worm party hanging out. Kind of like what we're seeing here too, right in the middle. Nice little worm party hanging out. Not too surprising. Yeah, well, there's a lot of worms in here. But I want to just sort of collect up what I can, put it together over here on this little pile that we've assembled, so that we can plow it down into the hole, and that'll become the basis for today's feeding, which is just going to be a whole bunch of little granular bite-sized materials for them sprinkled down all over this existing stuff. Hopefully being a meal that they can make use of right away, and then as they travel through the feeding area, they'll be bumping into older things which may or may not be possible for them to nibble on. But yeah, that is quite a big mound of leftover uneaten foods. I bet you if we were to just leave this system to go for a month and a half, we could probably still come back in here after that much time and still find leftovers with this much material still in here uneaten, especially in these cooler temperatures. I don't know. I'll have to give this some more thought. Who knows? Perhaps the next check-in on this system will be a little bit of a surprise by possibly just being indoors. And who knows? The weather forecasts can always change too. You never know. The weatherman's not always 100% correct. Sometimes they forecast one type of weather and then an entirely different type of weather rolls in through some sort of a storm system or whatever. So either way, I think for now, I was just going to stick to the original plan of letting the system stay outside in the slightly cool temperature, and as a result of being out in the slightly cool temperature, it'll result in somewhat slower activity here in the system, and that'll be just fine. I'm not too worried about it. And then at some point soon, we'll give them the relief that they're probably craving, which is a little bit of warmth, and then they'll reward us with some increased composting activity by being moved into the warmer temperatures. And that faster composting activity might actually be the thing that eventually becomes the thing that I'm after. Because I guess I would like to see some slightly faster composting activity in here and fewer leftovers. Luckily, none of this stuff has any sort of a weird odor, so none of it smells to me like it's rotting or anything like that. And hopefully, as the stuff does degrade to the point where the worms are able to come by and slurp it up and consume it, hopefully they're doing so. It does seem to me like we've got a sufficient quantity of worms occupying this system to be effective at breaking down a good amount of food. And, you know, there's also the matter of all these leaf stems. Being an outdoor worm bag, it's not surprising we were probably using leaves a lot as the bedding source during feedings out here, and that's also another slow composting item that might need some time to break down. I don't know, I feel like I'm trying to talk myself into taking these little guys indoors just for the sake of seeing activity in here pick up and become a little bit more productive. But you know what? It's an outdoor system and we're going to try to stick to it. So let's leave it as it is, cover it back up, and reconsider the option of taking them in at some point in the near future, but that won't be today. Today they're just going to stay out here in the slightly chilly, cooler temperatures, and perhaps be a little bit slow on working the foods that they've got down, but that'll be fine, at least for now. In a short period of time, I'm sure we'll be taking them downstairs. So that's it for the video, everyone. I got a few things to take care of, getting cleaned up, put away, but I'm not going to waste your time with that. That's boring. Before I go really quick, let me just say thank you. Thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, as always, please don't forget to leave me a quick thumbs up before you go. That's always really appreciated. And if you haven't done so already, please also consider subscribing to the channel. That's very much appreciated as well. All right, everyone. Have a great day. Thanks for watching. Bye now.